What's up, everybody? Pat Flynn here with Jaime Tardy from eventualmillionaire.com. She's in the Mastermind Group with me. We're going to talk a lot about Mastermind Groups and how we got started together and all that stuff. But first of all, welcome to SPI TV. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
We've talked on the podcast before several times, and we've been friends for how long now? 5-6 years?
Yeah, we're old now.
And Eventual Millionaire, what is it that your brand does? You interview
Millionaires.
And what do you discover about these millionaires that you interview?
Well, it's funny. So the first time, the reason why I even started doing this is because I didn't want to hear information from quote unquote gurus. I wanted to know what people actually in the trenches actually did instead of just people that wrote books about it, because that's great, don't get me wrong, but I wanted to know if it was true and correlated. And so when I started interviewing them, I was like, oh, they're all kind of saying the same thing, which is really awesome that they had very specific things. After the first 10 interviews, I remember telling my mentor that they all kind of sound the same, which is so sad, right?
You're like, I'm looking for unique content here.
I guess I'm done after 10. No, I'm up to 300 now.
Wow.
So we've found a lot of really awesome, amazing.
What are some of your favorite interviews?
You can't ask those. That's like asking from children. You know that, right?
Yeah, that's true.
Well, okay, so I do. I have a favorite child too. No, I'm kidding. So the reason why this one is my favorite is because I want to be a futurist when I grow up. He's actually a mentor of mine. His name is Nicholas Webb, and we talk about the future of technology. I think that stuff's super cool. So that's just fun for me. It might not be fun for you, but that's one of my favorites.
Do you happen to remember what episode that was?
I don't have numbers.
Oh, you don't have numbers. Okay.
No, you just Google their name.
Nicholas Webb?
Nicholas Webb.
Eventual Millionaire.
Yep.
We'll find it. Okay.
I interviewed both him separately, and then he has a twin brother, and they look exactly alike, named Charlie Webb. It's a little weird, but I interviewed them both. They're both millionaires.
Wow.
Different industries.
It's a video interview show.
Yes.
And in addition to an audio podcast.
Correct.
Very cool. So what are these common things that entrepreneurs are saying? Like, a lot of us are just starting out, or we're trying to break through into that next level of business. Like, how can we go from where we're at now to that next space? What are these commonalities that millionaires and successful people have?
Okay, so number one, and this is one of the commonalities of people that are in business in general, is we're a bit ADD, just so you know. Like, this is something that tons of them had said, so don't feel weird that you're like, oh, I'm all over the place.
So if you're not ADD, does that mean?
It's all over. No. No, it's a commonality. A lot of them have a lot of ideas. We're creative in terms of finding opportunities, right? That's what a lot of people want to become entrepreneurs, because it gives you that freedom and flexibility to use those.
Right.
It's a blessing and a curse, though, a lot of times, because we have all these ideas and we're like, squirrel, right? And we want to, and we pick different paths over and over and over again, right? So instead of doing that, what a lot of the millionaires suggest, just so you know, is don't try and start like 5 different companies. It's the focus and commitment you give to one idea that will actually push it far enough so that way you actually see results.
But what about the whole like throw spaghetti on the wall and see what sticks?
Okay, so that's what I did at the beginning. That didn't work for me. Just like, okay, so in a orderly fashion, there is testing that needs to happen. You know this, you're writing a book about it, right? So there is an orderly fashion that has to happen. When you see an idea that makes sense, then we put all of everything behind it. Right. But before that, a lot of people will be like, I have 3 companies. And you're like, oh, great. None of them are successful. You need to have one that's sort of straight out of the gate. Don't become a serial entrepreneur right away. Have one really big success and then learn from that and then start another one. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. Now, you've interviewed a lot of entrepreneurs that are successful in terms of revenue and building successful businesses, but I know some of them have talked about how that has taken them away from other things that they love, family, other people, other hobbies and things like that. Can you speak to that? Because I think it's important to know that this is something everybody struggles with, and then what are some of the things that these people are doing to make sure that they keep these important things in their life amongst being an entrepreneur too?
Definitely, because to me, the whole point of Eventual Millionaire isn't about the money, just so everybody knows. It's not just about the money. My definition for an Eventual Millionaire is somebody who has the goal to be a millionaire eventually, but they want to do it on their own terms, so they want to have an enjoyable life and enjoyable business. Because who cares? Like, if you have a non-enjoyable life, what's the whole point of having a whole bunch of money?
Right.
It's not what we're looking for. So what's interesting is they talk about seasons in your life. So when you're in startup mode and you're like hustling along, yeah, you might have to work many hours, right? That's sort of the way it is. So they say. I don't necessarily believe that after all of these interviews. A lot of people will tell you that. I think there can be balance. I interviewed somebody yesterday, and she's only worked 10 to 20 hours a week for 5 years, and now they're doing $2 million a year, and she's a millionaire.
So she's working smart.
Exactly.
She knows what her time is being spent for.
Well, and she had small kids. So to her, first priority, small kids, right? I can only do this much. And being smart and having a team. Now her husband works with her too. But there are ways that you can figure this stuff out. So you just need to know where your priorities are. And don't get me wrong there, I don't think anybody has like perfect balance all the time. Sometimes we have book launches, where you're like, oh, okay, a little bit more work than should be.
I think that perfect balance is a myth, because when you think about that scale, you know, it's either this way or this way. To get it perfectly balanced is that just that one spot and that whole kind of fluctuation, and to just go for that one incremental micro spot, it's going to be impossible, and you're just going to be deflated the whole time if that's all you shoot for.
Exactly, you're going to be like, oh, this sucks, never mind. Right? So I agree, I love that analogy just in general, because when you look at that, it's okay if it's like this sometimes, as long as you sort of tack it back the other way, like family and kids, of course. You know?
Yeah.
Sometimes book launch, crap.
Yeah.
and then family, you know? It can get a little insane, but as long as you're ebbing and flowing with it, then you can have a good life.
How are you, or how are the other entrepreneurs, or you, or even me, how are we aware of that ebb and flow? A lot of times we get so involved in our businesses we don't even realize until it's too late.
So my mastermind group has helped me with this before. I mean, that's the thing. Like I try and have other people to help me. I was working ridiculous amount, and you guys are like, you were worried about it, you need to take a break. And I was like, you're right. My goal next year is space. Thank you. And it really is. So having people that can really know you really, really well and be able to tell you, because sometimes we get in this mode where we're like, I know, but I have to achieve this, especially overachievers. I have to, but I have plans and I need to hit the goals, because we know we can, but when you whack other things out of balance, it's not worth it.
Right. And that's a perfect lead into talking about how important working with other people is and getting accountability. And so let's talk about mastermind groups. I didn't even really know what a mastermind group was until I kind of just randomly got into one back when I started with Internet Business Mastery in 2008. And then I realized how incredibly advice I was getting in terms of helping me move forward. And so forever from that point forward, I've learned how important it was. But even then I was reluctant to have something that was consistent every week. I was like, I don't know if I could spend an hour every week with the same people and have that in my schedule. Like, I want a flexible schedule. So, why don't you talk about how we first connected and leading up to how we've been in a mastermind group now for, 5 years?
Yeah, so now it's my fault that I take up an hour of Pat's time
totally.
every single week.
It's the worst hour of the week. Actually, no, it's in the schedule. I move things away to make sure that it happens because it's so important. And without it, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. And we've helped you, you've helped me, we've all helped each other. That's what it's all about. But talk about the beginning.
Okay, so I think that's the thing that's really interesting. I had somebody today say that they want to start a mastermind group, and they emailed a bunch of people and everybody said they didn't have time, and yet they were making less money than he was, which was interesting. So the I don't have time for this is not a valid excuse, because most millionaires I talk to have some sort of group like this.
They just don't want to make time for it.
Exactly, but they also probably don't know the value of it. So let's explain to everybody what the value is so that way they understand. So I started a mastermind group when my blog was 1 month old, by the way. It was 1 month old.
Really?
It was 1 month old.
I did not know that. Wow, I
had no credibility online when I asked Pat.
But it's amazing to know, because it doesn't mean you have to have this successful business or have been running for a while in order to have one.
So I agree. So I worked for myself. I had been a business coach for 3 years beforehand. So when I talked to you about, when I emailed you cold, by the way, I did not know him in any way, shape, or form. And I was like, do you want to be a part of this mastermind group? I sent sort of the outline. I'd run mastermind groups before. I just didn't have any online business experience. Hence the reason why I wanted to start a mastermind group of a bunch of people that had online experience. So that way I could just have them tell me what to do and I would go do it, right? But asking you I was trying to get people that were way better than me online. That way they could actually give me relevant advice. The problem I see a lot of times is mastermind groups, people they're giving advice from a place where they don't technically know, and then it gets a little convoluted. So I tell people to look for people that are 2 times above them where they want to be. And you are. Thanks for saying yes eventually, because he totally said no at first, by the way.
I did say no because I didn't realize what the value was, and I didn't know who you were, and I didn't know what value you could provide.
Exactly. So let me tell you how I got Pat Flynn to say yes. I think this.
You begged and you paid me a lot of money.
I know. I did not pay him anything.
Threatened me.
Yeah, I would have done that. No, I'm kidding. So now I could threaten him because we're friends, but otherwise it would look really stalkerish.
Right,
so,
you'd be in jail.
Exactly, that would be bad. So April would kill me. So the funny thing is the first email I had sent out was pretty much saying like, this is what I do. And I had worked with an online brand. They were called EP Bird. They had viral videos online with 50 million views on YouTube. This was way back when, 5 years ago, when it was cool. So I used that leverage because I had a lot of data from that. So I said, I work with this online brand. I have a whole bunch of data, blah, blah, blah. This is what the mastermind outlet would be. Pat said no. I was like, okay, whatever, move on to the next person because, a no is just a no, right? Move on to the next person. Then, right before we actually started, I emailed you one more time because we already had, I think, 3 or 4 people in the group that were really awesome. So I name dropped the heck out of them and wrote about how awesome they were. And then I told them that we were starting, with or without you, and that it was going to be a weekly, and they were all committed because I really care about the commitment, right? And you ended up saying yes.
I did.
It's crazy. Thank goodness I emailed that second time.
Well, I think that's really, really important to understand is no matter what you're doing, I forgot who said this, but the fortune is in the follow-up in anything, not just with starting mastermind groups, but with anything. I've sent cold emails out to people before and got no response. But in the follow-up, I would see a 40% response rate, which is huge because if you didn't do that, then you wouldn't get that information or whatever it is that you're trying to do. So the fortune is in the follow-up, and you definitely did follow up. I know you did the same thing when you tried to get Seth Godin as an interview for Eventual Millionaire. Can you just talk about that really quick? Because that's
Sure.
I remember you talking about that in a presentation once. It was really funny.
Everybody says no to me at first. What the heck? So no, Seth Godin also said no. Andrew Warner said no. I've had a lot of no's, just so we know. So because I interview millionaires, some people don't want to be known as a millionaire, even though everyone's sort of like, well,
So it's kind of obvious.
Yeah,
you've written.
But he was like, no, like heck no, right? So what I ended up doing was making friends with a bunch of his friends. And one of his friends was like, why didn't you have Seth on the show? And I'm like, because he said no to me. I know. And she goes, he should be on the show. Tell him I told you that you should be on the show. And I was like, okay. So then I emailed Seth and was like, so-and-so, I was just hanging out with her in New York and with your other friend so-and-so, and she suggested I email you again and ask you one more time, blah, blah. And he was like, anyone that's a friend of hers is a friend of mine.
Wow.
I know, right? Relationships. Crazy matter, but also the follow-up. Because if I didn't make the sad face, she might have never...
So make sad faces?
Make sad faces. Lesson learned.
Please buy my book. No, I'm just kidding.
That'll work for you, Pat.
No,
I bet it would.
No. It's not my style. But yeah, talking about relationships, it's really important. And whenever I talk to people about you, because I talk about you a lot,
yes,
they always say, in a positive manner, usually, they always say, wow, she knows everybody. Aww. You are one of the most connected people I know, and you are always offering references and giving me introductions and that sort of thing. How are you so good at getting to know people? We all know, I think, how important relationships are, but knowing is one thing. Actually going out there and building those relationships is another. How are you able to do that?
So one of the things I say is I'm from a small town in Maine with about 2,000 people. And I had no friends, so therefore I needed to go on the internet to make friends, and it worked really well. I know, it's really sad. See, I just have sob stories. But it's kind of true in a way, because my whole thing was I wanted to be around more people. Like I think I've told you this before, but I wrote a list. Everybody has heard you are the sum of the 5 people, right? Which is why I started the Mastermind Group. I wrote down a list of my 5 closest friends in Maine. Amazing people, but not where I wanted to be. They all had day jobs they hated, right? And I had already quit my day job. I was trying to get to the next level. So I wrote that down. So I suggest everyone write that down, burn the list so nobody sees it.
One more time.
A list of your 5 closest friends.
Okay.
Right now, right? So we know, 5 closest friends. The reason why is because you want to look at that and see if those are people of where you want to be in a few years. Right, because the people that you hang out with really make a difference. So, and I know I'm going off topic, but I totally will. So that's why I started the Mastermind Group. That main group ended up, my main jokes. But you introduced me to people at NMX, and I had a mentor, Nathan Hengen, way back when, who introduced, he was a speaker, so I was hanging out with the cool kids, apparently, and that was the very, very beginning of me going, oh, I get to hang out with the cool kids. I was such a geek in high school. Yay, cool kids. But then once you know a couple people, you can start to know so many more. Like nowadays on Facebook, it's insane. I just looked somebody up earlier. We had 397 mutual friends. I'm like, oh my gosh, right? The internet is so connected. So some of the things I suggest, right? And this is for introverts or extroverts, because I have a lot of people that are like, oh, these networking tips are great, except I'm an introvert, so I can't listen to that at all. Right. I used to be an introvert, thank you very much. On Myers-Briggs, I was an I. Thank you very much, right? Now I'm more of an E, but it's like a learned E, I guess you could say. So all I care about is helping people and making friends. Like, that's it. So if I know when we're chatting or something, like downstairs, I just met somebody new, I want to go, how can I help them? Do I know somebody else? Can I do something? Can I just make their day a little bit better as much as humanly possible? And it's like the best feeling in the world to be able to help someone. So what I usually try and do is I'm really lucky because I interview millionaires, so I get to meet a ridiculous number of millionaires and get introduced to a ridiculous number of millionaires. But in general, even when I'm just at a coffee shop or at a conference, I just try and help everyone. To me, there are no levels. Everybody's important, right? And then when you start doing that, you don't know who knows somebody else. And it's amazing. Like, small town girl from Maine, I never in a million years thought I would have a network like this. And people tell me that I am not well connected because I'll name drop people's names, assuming that everybody knows them, and they don't. So apparently I know a lot of people in general, but it just adds up and adds up because I've been online for 5 years. So all the different connections you meet, it just adds up over time.
Right, and so you have to just start one at a time. And do you get selective on who you approach, and like, do you go to conferences and almost become stalkerish in that way? Because I know some people who network in that way. They're very strategic with who they speak to, and then, you know, I have mixed feelings with that. I kind of just put myself where people like that are and just have things happen naturally. What's your take on that? Okay, so it depends. So sometimes there's just people I really want to meet. Be like, I want to be their friend, right? And that's okay. Because my whole thing is, yes, it might be helpful in a business sense, but I'm never going, I need to get that person so I can ask them for this affiliate thing. Like, I would never do that. But I'm very strategic in going, ooh, that's an amazing person. I would love to know them. I will go to conferences based on speaker stuff. If there's speakers I want to meet, and I will try and become a speaker there, because usually you can hang out in the speaker's room. And then you become friends. So like, once you start paying attention to who these people are, and that's the thing, at the very beginning, I mean, I was hanging out with, I don't know, we were not, somebody called me an A-lister the other day. I was like, okay. Like, I remember like Darren Rouse being like, oh my gosh, she's amazing. And I remember getting invited to his like party, and I was like, oh, it's Darren Rouse. You know what I mean? And now like, we're friends, so it's not, but you can still have that, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I think they're amazing, and eventually become their friends if you know that you're going after being their friend. Does that make sense? Right. Yeah, I mean, always providing value. I think that's really smart, and even in a small way. And an introduction to somebody else who might be useful or a friend is a great way to do it. And not everybody's going to do that, which is why I think a lot of people love you and know you and are, you know, they recommend you for a lot of things. So that's awesome. And the final question I have here is talking about these relationships again. How do you manage all this? Do you use any tools? Because you know a lot of people. I know a lot of people, and I struggle sometimes remembering who's who and what they do and how I can help them, because there's just so many of them. Do you use any tools to help you? So I should use tools. Not the answer I was looking for. No. All right, no, I'm just kidding. And we're done. Okay, Jamie, so leave. What should somebody do? Okay, so this, I have a system. Just because I don't use tools doesn't mean I don't have a system. Sorry. Let me, no, okay. We are too good of friends. This is not good for interviews. Okay, so I've tried different systems. If you are somebody who likes tools, I usually recommend Contactually, right? Because that's a really cool tool. I've tried it. I can't get behind that for some reason, because the way that I do it is very specific. What does Contactually do? Oh, so Contactually actually manages all your communication. So it works in Gmail and stuff like that, and it will remind you, hey, you haven't talked to this person in 2 months. You should chat with them, and it like sends you a little reminder. So however long, so it suggests
10 emails a week or whatever it is to just go check in with them.
I've also
which is
seen
cool.
some tools that will show you their latest Twitter updates. Does it do that too?
I don't use it, so I don't really know. But, so I tried it. So the thing is that I like to manage things organically as much as I can. So when I think about somebody, I will text them. Sometimes I will go through when I'm waiting in line. I try and be as efficient as humanly possible. So if I'm waiting in line or whatever it is, I will go through old text messages from like a year ago and text someone that I haven't talked to in a long time and just say, thinking of you, or something like that. It can be super simple. Sometimes I just send little hearts, if it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be anything that big, or I'll send in checking on you, like emails. It can be super, super simple, but all you want to do is have little touch points. And I'm always like, oh, tell me about what's going on with you. Give me an update. I really want
and you're
more.
actually interested.
Yeah, I do actually care. Rule number 1, actually care. Who knew, right? Mm-hmm. Kind of silly, but being able to just keep that, like I have definitely a closer amount of friends, but I try and reach out to as many people as humanly possible because I love connecting. It's kind of my thing. So I'll be sitting in line being like, okay, now this, because I think it's really fun.
So next time I get a text, I'll be like, what line are you in?
I'll be like, and I'm waiting in Starbucks, so that's the only reason why I care about you right now, Pat.
Right. Now I know your secret. No, awesome. Thank you so much, Jaime, for coming on and sharing all this info. We've touched on a lot of things. Obviously this is here. You can review it and all that good stuff. So, Jaime, thank you again. EventualMillionaire.com. Check her out. Any final parting words to the SPI audience? Just keep moving forward, keep moving forward, keep moving forward, and eventually you'll get there. Yes. Boom. That was so bad. Bye, guys. Bye.